talent equals longevity. That's all I think. Like if I put in the work and I have the talent and I build that talent and I'm aware that I'm not the most talented and I keep building that I can have a career, a long career. Because there's plenty of people that have, that get on Modern Family. And I'm not hitting Modern Family for this, but I'm saying like, I've been on a network sitcom and you don't know if it's going to be the thing that changes everything because it can be. And that happened with the Modern Family people. Some of those kids were on that show when they were 6. I think some of them live in my neighborhood, but like real houses. I'm in like a Breaking Bad house. So, and they're much younger, and that could be. And I see people get frustrated about that. I go, don't blame them because they got on a hit show. If I was on Big Bang Theory, for Christ's sakes, I mean, we'd be doing this in a boat.
Jay Sean's Basement Banter.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Basement Banter. I am, of course, Jay Sean, joined with my lads, the Woody and Toddy Boy. How we doing, boys?
Good stuff, man. Good.
Doing great.
Yeah, great. That was very enthusiastic. Well done.
Very believable.
Fucking great start to the show, that one. But we are joined today with a very special guest. He is a comedian and actor, writer and co-host of the podcast Lion's Den alongside his mate and co-host Jason Collins. And you can also find his self-titled special, I Am Brent Morin, on Netflix. And we are very lucky to have him with us here today. Brent, my man, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
You're hanging in there, are you?
I don't know anymore, man. I mean, it's like 6-7 months. Not to bring it down. We'll be funny. We're going to make it funny today. But honestly, I've been answering that question so fake.
I know. Same. But that's exactly what I was going to say to you. I was actually going to say, when people say, because I do the same thing. Right? I had an interview today earlier. And they're like, how you doing? And I feel like going, honestly, I'm fucking over it. It's annoying. It's annoying. I want to get back on the road. Right. Same. I want to gig. You know what it is, Brent? There's certain people, like I have friends who, I was about to say, I have normal friends who, I have friends who have normal jobs. And by that, of course, I mean, desk jobs or office jobs. And now, of course, they are able to work from home.
Yeah.
We are not able to work from home in the same way at all.
No. I got asked to do a couple Zoom comedy shows.
Oh, God.
And I love the ambition of it. Like I'll never hate on ambition, but I canceled like 2 days before. And it was one of these kind of Minority Report shows where it's just a bunch of screens where they're just watching you. And then you just kind of talk to them. And part of me was like, I don't want to do it that way coming back. But the other part of me was just actually, I got scared because I was like, I actually don't know. This is the longest I've gone without doing stand-up. Like in 12 years, it's the longest I went was 2 weeks. So this is like 6 months or something. Wow. I'm like, oh my God. And
how long has it been for you, Jay? Like how the same thing? Like
so, 17 years I've been touring. And this is the longest I've been without a gig, right?
Yeah.
But the difference between me singing, because I have done some performances, like Zoom performances and shit like that. The difference is I don't necessarily need a response, a reaction to carry on my next bit.
Yeah.
How the heck do you try to be funny when you can't get that laughter back at you?
It's, and some comics that I know too, everybody kind of hit that thing like, all right, we're going to be all right. The group of comedians I'm friends with, we're all like, okay, you know what? It could be worse, like I said earlier, but we're going to be okay. And then what happens is we hit that withdrawal. And then all of a sudden you go, I need a crowd. And then all of a sudden I'm going, people are trying to put on a backyard show, but then they can't do it. And then, then it becomes this outdoor thing that people are doing where it's cars.
Yeah.
And you beep and shit if it's a laugh. And I'm like, I go, I'm not going to play to Beaker. You know what I mean? Like this is, I don't know. Or there's a clicker. There's some clicker I heard.
Stop it. That's horrible.
Yeah. Some type of clicker. I'm too insecure for that. I need that laugh to make me know I'm not insane with the things I'm saying. So I was like, do I want to try to do that? Now I'm getting closer and closer to that. Like maybe I will just give that a shot just because I also miss comedians.
Wow.
Like I just miss kind of seeing some of my friends. I've kind of been locked in the valley. But yeah, you're right. There's people are doing these shows and it's great to see them doing it, but it's just not the same thing. You can't really get a judge and you want that laugh. That's why we do it. So it's a really hard thing to do.
100%. And going off of what you're saying is because singing is a muscle, right? To sing, it's a muscle. If you don't sing for a while, you're like, oh fuck, wow, shit, I should have been singing because I'm not as good anymore. Is it similar with comedy? Is it?
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, like I actually will. I think I will have a legitimate panic attack when I get on stage because just like I said with that Zoom show, that was also a huge part of it. I had to tell myself that, Brent, it's not just because it's a bunch of Minority Report screens. You also don't know what the hell to talk about because I truly don't really know if I remember my act when I was going in. And then also how relevant is it now? Because now I'm looking at it like I was going to tape that hour already. And now I'm like, I don't even like it. And how does it make sense to the world now? Because I talk about what's going on with me. It's like therapy with laughs for me, kind of like this. And what if I just started crying in like 2 minutes? And you guys were like, oh, Jesus, this shit, man, this broke down.
Viral.
It's a safe space, bro.
It's a safe. You're right. That would go viral.
Yeah.
Can you just do it then? Let's just.
Yeah. I don't know. Stand up. Honestly, I don't even feel like a comedian anymore right now. I'm a podcaster. That's what I've learned. And sometimes you go on rolls. You get a nice bit, but you don't get that response. But then people have been nice. I'm sure you recognize this, all you guys, is you get that response like with DMs or even GIFs or somebody sends you stuff and you go, oh, yeah, you know what? I'm still funny. Like there's still something here. You know?
Dude, I get it. Of course, I'm not a comedian, but like I like to have a laugh, and I'm the kind of funny one in our group of friends. But I found myself as I'm getting older, I'm like, am I creeping into dad joke zone? Because I've got kids now. I've been with them for 5 months, making them laugh.
Yeah,
with very mediocre level comedy. I'm like, shit, maybe I need to, just like we were saying, working the muscle. Adam, we have that WhatsApp group, and it has like 18 or 20 lads on it, and if you're not sharp, they will fuck you up.
Oh, they're murdy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Honestly, like I remember I've lost my ability to even communicate, I think, in public with people. You know, like I used to feel like I was quick and my mind had been working and I've been working that muscle. But like I even went to the market. I remember like within the first 2.5 months when they finally, like when the businesses were opening, and I went to my local market, and I know the guy, but I hadn't talked to a stranger in a long time. Wow. And all I wanted to say was hi, but like hi and hello were both in my head for some reason. So I said, hello. And he was like, what? And I go, hello. What's going on? And he's like, oh, Jesus, Brent's drunk and it's 9 a.m. Like I said, hello.
I wouldn't blame you.
I went, Jesus, Brent, I'm becoming everything. Like any character I played on TV. I said, hello.
Hello.
But see, there you go. There's a bit for your next act, because it's been literally so long without communicating with humans that there's still stuff that you can talk about. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, which I found very interesting. I have a similar problem really with when I'm making an album. So of course, music changes very quickly, right? And what is trendy now might not be trendy in a year.
It's very true,
right? So now,
or a month,
even a month,
yeah.
So Todd down here, sorry, I should have introduced you properly to these guys. So Todd down here is he's my sound engineer. He's my engineer, so he records my vocals, right? Yeah, like that bit, he would have just cut that out.
Yeah. I love that. There you go.
Yeah.
It's like sound it out.
Yeah. So he records my vocals. So he knows when I'm working on an album, we'll be working on it for months and months, and then a time will pass, and then suddenly you're like, well, that's not even hot anymore, because this is the new sound.
Yeah.
And we just scrap that entire piece of work. So when you were saying like you had a special ready, and then you're like, well, fuck, it's not relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, can you tweak stuff?
Or do you just burn it?
Well, yeah, like the thing is that was actually something when I was really getting a little bit of heat. And I had just gotten a sitcom. I'd gone from being a PA at the Conan show to then being a star of an NBC show within like 2 months. And so everything was changing, and I was finally getting those offers for a half-hour special on Comedy Central. And, but maybe an hour was possible with Netflix. And then you start, opportunity can also be a little stressful, because you go, I don't want to make the wrong choice. And will it be relevant? Does it make sense? And I actually had to come to terms with, okay, Brent, when you're older, what do you want to see? Like, what is the stand-up that you want to do? Because I'm not a political comic, and I'm not necessarily like, a topical comedian. So I really came to terms with the fact that, all right, what is the thing you do, Brent? It's therapy with laughs, and it's about you and what is going on with you. And what do you want to see when you're an old man? And I realized that, okay, I'm going to skip the half hour, which was, could be really stupid of me, and wait for the hour because I want to look at my life like yearbooks of my life. Like, what was I talking about at 28? Okay, at 28, I was talking about I want to be in love, but I'm not ready for a relationship. Then I got in a relationship right after that, and I thought I was going to shoot my next hour when I was 30. And then that was going to be about how I'm in love, but I'm not an adult. Like I had themes to what I was going to talk about, which I think it was Chris Rock who said, comedy rots, but everybody knows relationships. So you kind of, that doesn't have to really fail. But then she broke up with me, whatever. And, and things kind of like they fall a little bit. So then I got asked to do this half hour. And the stuff I had about relationships didn't make sense. So I got asked to do this half hour for Netflix called The Stand-Ups. And I treated it like almost a breakup mixtape. I said, you know what? This is shit I'm done talking about on the road. I can't say I'm in a relationship if I'm not in a relationship. And it's just about being honest. So like with my new hour that I had, that was going to be about, the difference between being alone and lonely. Because I love being alone. But when somebody leaves you, people around you start treating you like you're lonely, and it kind of fucks everything up with you. Like going to a movie by myself used to be fun. I knew the people working there. There's Brent. That guy's got it all. And then all of a sudden she leaves me. They go, there goes the loneliest guy in Hollywood. Give him 2 popcorns. He's sitting here alone. Like people just look at you like she's dead. Right. There she goes, boys. The saddest man in the world. And the whole idea was I would get back, and I'm still working on it, of like, I just want to get back to being alone. So you start kind of rewriting these ideas. It's just, these are major things in our life with social justice and pandemics that you can't just ignore. So I think for me, it's just going to be about, one, I got to find some relevance of what I did before the pandemic, because it is out of my mind, because I don't write shit down. I only write down bullet points.
Wow.
So and everything leads into a thought, and then you connect it like this, whatever, insert something funny. But I don't write things down. So I have to remember, okay, well, where was I going with this? And how do I put this into that? So I know I'm going to do a good amount of this stuff that I really want to do from the special I wanted to tape. But I realized the only thing I can do to not drive myself nuts is if it's honest to me, then it might be honest to someone else, regardless if a certain amount of time passes me by of what's in the zeitgeist.
Does that mean that when you're on stage, you write this stuff down in bullet points? Are you just riffing? I remember Billy Connolly used to say that he wasn't. I'm not a comedian. I'm a storyteller, and I'm just riffing. How does it come to you?
I have like an idea, like something like High Life might happen to me, and then I'll just start riffing on that idea. Like the Comedy Store, that was a great place to really learn if you were funny, because you really, I know that kills me. And that was a great place to know if I was funny, because I would have to follow, George Wallace and then Chappelle, and then all these guys would get up, and Sebastian Maniscalco and Bill Burr, and then Brent,
my God,
which is like, ugh. And so then I would have to go up and test something against these guys. So I would just have like an idea, like, okay, well, what do I want to talk about? Well, this happened to me and I got in this fight. So let's talk about that. And then I just remembered, okay, well, that was funny. This was funny. And then you just I remember it. Like, it's just something I remember. And I would just kind of realize, okay, well, we got to cut that down. So then you start doing 3 shows a night, and then you start to figure out, I think by the improv, I'm going to figure this out. And then you just keep working it. And I just remember it. I can remember it word for word, my entire hour. I just would remember it. If I wrote it down though, like I know comedians that are just brilliant, like joke tellers, and they could write something down. I could never do that. I could never be a monologue writer. Yeah. I couldn't be the Stephen Wright. I couldn't be a Mitch Hedberg, that stuff. I'm too long-winded. So it doesn't work that way. So I just it changes a little bit, but by the time it gets to the special, it's pretty much the same thing they bought. They'll see it and they go, oh yeah. And then when they find out it's just a bullet point, well, where's the dialogue for it? Because people will ask you that when you do a TV taping or a special. Can you send us the transcript? And I just write back, no. Wow. Because I don't know.
Really? So they want to sort of just vet it to make sure there's nothing. Okay, so so many interesting things that you just said there to me. Of course, you're an actor as well, so you are capable of reading lines and delivering a funny line. But when it comes to your comedy, you don't like doing it that way.
No, it has to be some sense of freedom, and then you'll figure something out. That's why the Comedy Store was great, because it takes you out of like the happy crowds. You really get stripped all the way down to just like the bareness of everybody who's ever been a paid regular at the Comedy Store, the names on the wall. You really got to be stripped all the way down to a point where you snap on stage. Everybody's had a snap moment on stage where they go, well, why don't you just leave? I'm sick of this shit. And you're the most you've ever been. And sometimes I'd be in a mood. I would get in an argument with my girlfriend before I'd go on stage, and I had an idea of what I want to work on. So I would say, okay, I just need to work out this one bit, this idea. But then something happened before I get on stage, and I'll just say on stage, this is the comfort level, and I'll sit on a stool and go, you ever wonder what the point of a relationship is? And then I'll have nowhere to go yet.
Wow.
And she'll be there. And then I go, this is the problem I have. And then I'll just find it by just trying to feel it, you know? So I had a writing teacher once tell me, you know, they always say, write what you know, but we don't know shit. In film school, he told me, we don't know shit, so write what you feel. So I just kind of write what I feel. Because at the end of the day, I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. So even if I have an opinion about any political shit or a pandemic, that's just my opinion. I always say I'm the kind of guy that could watch a trailer about a documentary and I know everything about World War II. Like, that's just how I am. I'm the guy at the bar is like, no, Kennedy was killed by the mob. Like, how do you know? Because of things, you know? Like, I don't really know.
So let me ask you. So you are Brent Morin. When you are on stage, you are Brent Morin. You're not playing a character. You're not.
No. Years of playing one, though. Like, that's how you start. You emulate the people you looked up to, or, you know, you got to get to you somehow. Some people can do it with great joke telling. I had to do it with, like, therapy.
Right. So if you are Brent Morin when you're on stage, and you're going to have different crowds, and not every crowd might react to the same funny bit that you thought was funny. How do you still go with that? Or do you know, like, for example, I'm going to Washington. I know Washington, they're a bit like this over there. They're a little stiff, right? And do you adapt to your crowd like that?
In the beginning, you do that a little bit in the beginning, but there's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I'm very hard on myself, and, you know, I'm not as smart as my brothers. And that was a good thing. You know, one of my brothers was a professional figure skater turned doctor. The other one was a concert pianist who now runs a top city 40 in the United States. Like, and my parents are both teachers. And, you know, Jeopardy would be on, and I'm just sitting there eating cereal for dinner because with a helmet. Just jokes. But I just realized that I'm not going to be the person that's going to figure that. Like, my whole thing was, you know, these crowds are smarter than you think. They could sense when you're not confident on something, when you're pretending to be something, no matter where you're playing. They know when you're not real or you're not confident. There's like some weird energy that they can sense. And I started learning that more and more, because I used to change it up. I used to just come out differently. And I learned a lot. Like Jason Collins, I do Lion's Den with. He was one of my first friends in comedy. And I was like 18 when I met him, and he was already a father of 2 and owned a karate school business doing stand-up because his dad's dying wish. And he just had a gift, you know, because stand-up is an age game. You know, the more you live, the better you can be. But he grew up in Long Beach, and there were black rooms that you could play. And black audiences, to me, are some of the greatest audiences because they don't give you the benefit of the doubt. But if you can kill... They're the greatest crowd you could ever have, but they could sense no confidence.
100%.
And you need to bring it, but it's more about, do you believe in the shit you're saying? So I would used to drive 45 minutes because it was the only place that would give me 15 minutes when I had about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm 19, 20. And I would bomb every week, but I guess I loved the pain. So I would just go back with him. And eventually I started figuring out, oh, they just don't believe you. They want you to succeed, but you are bombing. And they'll say, you're bombing, like within a minute. And I learned a lot from that. I learned that, I have to be myself. I don't have to tailor anything to anybody. And you learn that. Now, granted, I had experiences early on where maybe I do a war joke or something in Bakersfield and didn't realize I'm playing an entire, military base of people. Mm-hmm. And then it gets super quiet and it's hard to get out of there without getting hurt. And those are some of the risks you take.
Dude, 100%. And the reason I'm saying that is because obviously I tailor. I'm one of the artists. I think one of the few artists actually, because I talk to a lot of them. A lot of them have a set and they stick to the set. And it's like after this, bam, spin around, yeah, bang to the next song. Whereas with me, I might go. I look at the audience and I'm like, fuck, that's not gonna work with these guys. Like if you go to Japan, for example, I can't be like, yo, throw your hands up. They don't do that. When they're listening to a concert, they listen. They're not reacting through the song. So I remember the first time I was there, I was like, fuck, I'm bombing. They hate me because they're not even doing it. And then I realized culturally, they're not the same as a Vegas crowd or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess the reason I'm asking you this is when you're doing a special, surely they are all Brent Morin fans. They're not there because they came to see Chappelle and then you came on. Yeah. They're there for you. So you do have a particular style, of course, because let's just give me a quick anecdote from your special when you were doing the shrinking dad bit and he's becoming an elf and you're going through a small hole. Hey, they've got to know that's your style because that could bomb badly somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. It has.
Oh, really?
Well, even in that first special, I wasn't popular enough so you had to paper the room a little bit, but it was a majority of people knew who I was. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Like if I go to DC, the difference is like, okay, I can't assume they want me to talk about politics. I can't, we got to think every single city is different, but I'm a comedian. I observe. So if I walk around, I'll open up a set. Like in America, it's a big thing. If I open up a set in Texas, I would talk about Texas, especially I did a Texas run and I'm not like pandering to them. I just would say like, I've noticed the difference between everybody here in Texas. I go like I'd be in Austin, Texas, and then I would be in Houston, Dallas, and then where else did I? San Antonio. And so I just would say things like, I figured you out. If this was like a family dinner, I know exactly who you are. Dallas is the star quarterback who only cares about himself. I get that. Houston is the son that brings way too many friends to dinner.
Yeah, right.
I go, Austin is the goth kid who goes, just leave me alone. You don't get me. And they run upstairs, and then San Antonio just finished the dinner. So this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that wasn't like a pre-planned bit. And like when I'm in DC, all I said when I got on stage, I go, why are all of you jogging and none of you are in shape?
That's brilliant.
Because I just noticed there were so many out of shape people jogging all the time. And you kind of play it. Now, I'll say, like, when I went to England, it was definitely in the West End. Got the name of the theater, but it was 3 stories of theaters. And I played, like, the 90-seat chairs, and I tried to go up there and, like, open, because it's no host, just me. And I walk out with 90 people, and it was really exciting. It's the first time I've ever been international, and it's the first time I'm playing people that some of them actually know who I am. I go, I can't believe people in England would know who I am. Mm-hmm. But I tried to open with what I had seen during the day, and it was crickets, silence. Yeah. Wow. And I realized, somebody had told me later, they go, they don't need your banter. They just want your act. They're there for the show. Wow. So then I realized I don't have to do crowd work up front to get them on my side. They just wanted me to come out and immediately open with my act. And that was the first time I realized, oh man, like that things are different, like,
is there a strange catharsis for comedians? Like you touched upon it earlier, like, Jay, I know you can speak to, like, every show you do, sing down, sing, ride it, sing the hits. Right. Whereas you guys, you had this special that you built and crafted, and then COVID comes in, fucks it all up. Mm-hmm. Some of it now, as by time progresses, will change and you'll burn it. I remember listening to, one of Bill Burr's many podcasts, and he talked about how excited he was when he came back off his London show, and he was like, I fucking did it. That fucking is burnt, and now I'm gonna start from scratch. I'm gonna start building the next hour. Is that pleasurable for you to kind of like you've built this thing up and then you've like, it's out and it's done and I've burnt it and now I start my new hour? Or is it scary because you're like, shit, I've now got to start all over again?
It's both, because it's pleasurable when you're done with it and you know you did it and it took this much time to really figure it out. Then you edit it and then you go, I should have said this, because you're just never satisfied. And then they book the next tour where people had seen the special. So now that the audience changes, because now it becomes people that actually know who the hell you are a little bit. Not all of them, because it's tricky, but for me at least, you know, I haven't had that special that like blew me up. I've seen friends who they have the special and all of a sudden now they're playing the Wilbur Theater and like I haven't gotten there yet, which is okay. It's good. Like I'll be better because of it. But then you see that and they'll yell things out, do George, do, you know, or whatever the hell it is.
God.
And then that's when you get scared like shitless, but it's kind of exciting. Maybe comedians just really like pain, but you just try to figure out, all right, now you got to do it again. Because there's like an inherent, like, you know, we're like, I don't even know what the word is. It's just, but it's completely, once you're done with it, you don't want to do it again. And then some people will do a special and just do that special everywhere. Like it's, you know, their hit songs. But songs can, I feel like, can live, you know? And I think stand-up, it's like, they don't, some people want to hear the punchline. Most people want to hear the new shit, you know?
Yeah, of course, because once you know a joke and you know how it ends, you're like, I know it. Why are you
it's like seeing a movie. It's like Anchorman. I love Anchorman. I love Wedding Crashers. I love those movies. Now I could watch it over and over, but I know it. It's not the same feeling I had in the theater the first time.
Of course.
So you just have to do it. So it is a test. I think it's healthy and good. And maybe it's the Irish in me where I just want to beat myself up to like try to be better.
There's a lot of darkness, of course, in comedy. It's well known that the comedy comes from dark places, and a lot of comedians that I know, I have some friends who are comedians. They go one of two ways. Either when you're hanging out with them in person, in real life, the last thing they want to do is be funny. They're just like, bro, give me a break. Let me just be. I don't feel funny today, man. Just let it go. And they just want to be a regular Joe. We'll have a shit day. They want to have a shit day. They don't need to perk up and make you laugh. And that's great because I'm their friend and they can do that with me. But when they meet a stranger, they expect you to be this funny man all the time. And all you're trying to do is buy groceries. And they're like, hey, it's so weird. Brent Morin came in. He wasn't even funny. And isn't that fucking annoying? How annoying is that?
Well, honestly, like I had a friend who told me once, and he's a comic, and we had a friend who was on a really like a hit show, and it was, you know, a big show, and we went to go meet them at a nightclub, you know, like one of these outdoor Hollywood places after a set at the store, and more people were coming up to my friend than Aaron, our other, well, now I said Aaron Paul. So, so he was there, and it was Breaking Bad, the biggest show on television at the time.
Right.
And I said to I go, isn't it kind of crazy that, you know, people are coming up to you and not him? He goes, of course they're coming up to me because they think they know me. He goes, that's what being a comedian is. Like they see Aaron as the guy who's on Breaking Bad. Like they think they know, like they can come up and grab you and say things like, hey, my girlfriend left me too. You know, like, all right, man, I'm just kind of on a date though. Yeah. And this is weird. Yeah. So there is part of that. I will say this though. If it wasn't for stand-up, I would be way too annoying. Like stand-up was a great release for that funny stuff. It's not like there are curmudgeons. There are the Eeyores of comedy where there are a lot of, I don't hang out with a lot of comedians because it's a little too, all right, we get it, buddy. You know?
Right. Yes.
Like you can't hang and be the curmudgeon in the corner. But, you know, you get exhausted doing 45 shows a month. And you're at a dinner party and they're like, so tell us a joke. I can't stand. Of course. I go, okay, you got 9 minutes because I'm long-winded and I don't know where I'm going.
Right. And there's something very fascinating about, which is what one of the sort of purposes of this podcast for me was to be able to pull back the curtain a little bit for my fans and for them to see what actually goes on behind the scenes, because I am this perfectly packaged product majority of the time for people, as are you. Your special is perfect. It was every joke hit and everything was perfect. But I love the bit where you said everything was planned. The blue curtain made your eyes pop and the blah, blah, blah. And it was a very endearing truth that you told. Yeah. And that made me like you. From the beginning. As soon as you said that, I was like, I like this dude because he's just being honest. And now everything he says, I'm going to pay attention to because he already said that shit. So now whatever he's got to say is probably worthwhile. Like it's not, you understand what I'm saying? Like it just, I don't know. I like
the truth.
It's the truth. There you go. So I really found that interesting. But I think one thing about comedy that a lot of people don't perhaps understand is, much like with music, if I have put out a song and the song, say, didn't do well, but then I'm listening to the radio and I hear some track which I think is garbage, I'm going to go, the fuck is this on radio for? Shit. And it makes me want to turn the radio off because I'm like, well, you guys just know shit. Like, this is just not fair. Similarly with you, you said your special didn't necessarily launch you like another comedians may have.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, there's a few things with that I try to express to other comics that are more starting out, that I tell them not to, like, I'm dead honest with people. I go, look, I'm petty. You know, I could look at Instagram and get bitter. I know I have an ego. I know exactly I'm competitive, but I also have to like be empathetic and understand, okay, this wasn't your time, because there is a luck element on top of the fact that we're in a subjective business. So there are people, even more as an actor, I feel, where I'm like, I know I'm a better actor and I know I should be involved in this conversation. And this is really annoying to me. And I hated that about myself. Like, I shouldn't resent somebody because they got something. But at the end of the day, I'm a fucking human.
Right.
And I put the work in. So with stand-up and all that, I just have to realize there are certain things in both of us and all the entertainment industry that we can't control. All we can control, and that I think is, you know, talent equals longevity. That's all I think. Like, if I put in the work and I have the talent and I build that talent and I'm aware that I'm not the most talented and I keep building that I can have a career, a long career. Because there's plenty of people that have, you know, that get on Modern Family. And I'm not hitting Modern Family for this, but I'm saying, like, I've been on a network sitcom and you don't know if it's going to be the thing that changes everything, because it can be. And that happened with the Modern Family people. You know, some of those kids were on that show when they were 6. I think some of them live in my neighborhood, but like real houses. I'm in, like, you know, like the Breaking Bad house. So, and they're much younger. And that could be, and I see people get frustrated about that. I go, don't blame them because they got on a hit show. If I was on Big Bang Theory, for Christ's sakes, I mean, we'd be doing this in a boat. Right. Have highlights. But it's just one of those things where, like, even with the radio and with music too, especially if you're putting your heart and soul into it. Right. All that goes back to what I say about yearbooks in my life. Like, I can't try to write like the path. I can't do the math equation of how, if I do this movie or if I do this special here, or if I do this, this will be this. I have to, at the end of the day, when I'm old enough, look back and go, no, I'm proud of that. I'm good with that. That was me at 28, and this is your grandfather at 32, and this is this and this. Because otherwise, we're just going to drive ourselves nuts.
Do you ever watch your special? Of course you've watched your special.
No, I haven't.
Come on.
I only in the editing. I can't do it.
Okay, so this is fascinating to me. This is fascinating to me. I like, the question really is, do you make yourself laugh?
No, the thing with me is I used to, like, I did a sitcom called Undateable, and I did this one, Mary Happy, and I only saw an episode of Undateable, I think 2 years ago. I never watched it because anytime we were forced to live tweet it, and I wouldn't really watch it because that's my own shit. That's nobody else's shit. Like, I really just was like, man, I'm way too hard on myself. And then with the special, when I would go to the editing, I would go through the editing, and the editor was awesome. But then I'd be like, maybe we cut that part. And he goes, no, it's great.
Yeah, it's
and I go, dude, you're not helping me get this down. Like,
That's like what I do with Jay in the studio.
Yeah, 100%. It
Like,
is.
this is garbage. I'm like, you're tripping, bro.
Right.
And I have to go, how much is that my shit? And how much are they right? Because they probably are, because we've been sitting with it for so long.
So long.
So I really, I never watched it. And then I got drunk. Actually, I'll say this. This is what happened. During quarantine,
Right.
I was alone. And which that's a good start. And I just got drunk as shit. Because it's like Bender, not Bender, Bender, not
Of
Bender
course.
for me during this damn place.
100%.
And I put it on. And I said, you know what? We should really look at this. And immediately I was like, I should have cut the intro and I should have cut the outro. And then after that, I go, why don't you slow down, you fucking idiot? So I'm sitting there like a drunk moron going, slow down. Get to the point. Look how stupid you look. Why couldn't you get better shoes? You know, not even that blue of a curtain. Great shot. There's an exit sign in the shot. This whole business. I was like Mickey from Rocky, just like a really drunk piece of shit.
I love it.
I can't go back in time. So all I hold on to is that somebody writing me a letter going like, hey, this made me, I'm in my high school cafeteria and this made me think about doing this. And I'm like, oh, I've been there. And I'm not going to be the person that like dissuades somebody. But no, it's tough. Songs are different, though. I feel like you got to listen to them. We should change this because you brought up the fact like after a special, like you try to burn all the material, but sometimes you got to bring out some of the stuff to fill the space. Right. But when there's something that happens mentally with comics when you burn the material and it's gone, you start looking at it differently. And there were so many times with like in my other special where I talk about Uber and how I feel like a shitty prince and just George, get the car, you know, that whole thing.
I saw you do that at the Ice House.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I would go on rants on the road though after I taped it. I remember I did it, I think in I think I was in Atlanta and I did it for 22 minutes. And I had a whole
just that bit.
Just that bit. Yeah. And I just kept going to the point like George, and just I kept going and going. And then when I got off stage, it was like, wow, I fucked up that special. I was like, why didn't I say this part? You know, you start going on these rants. You can't control it, I guess. So sometimes I'll do bits like that just because it like for the crowd here, you know, it doesn't feel like a hit song. Like when they yell George, I'll add things to it. You know, that's part of the not writing anything down. But yeah, you know, to your point, people don't know the work that goes into what we do and how nitpicky we can be. And like, why did I say there? You know, it could be that simple.
Do you ever try when you have a gag and you know it's going to work? Like the only reason I say this is because you know, sometimes I'll do video idents and I'll do this, that, and the other. And I might do one and it was like, whoa, it was like I fluked it and it was really impactful. And I try to do the same thing again and it just doesn't work. It looks and feels contrived. With joke telling, I've always been fascinated by this, but I guess because you're an actor as well, it's probably easier for you to. Are you able to land it the same way each time, deliver it the same way?
Comedy Store gets that because sometimes you'll be at the Comedy Store and you might be having a good time and it's safe and it's home. And at the like if I'm on the road, you know, I'm a good boy when the show's over because people are paying to be there. I try to treat it like almost like a Broadway show. I don't want people to see me beforehand. I want them to be entertained. I'm not going to be selfish on the stage. I'm not going to be a drunk buffoon. I'm not going to do any of this shit. But if I'm at the Comedy Store and, you know, the good spots are midnight and you're hanging out at the Sunset Tower Hotel, you know, and you're having a good time and you're waiting to go up, that's 15 minutes in a pitch black room where you can try to work things out with people that are not going to tape you, that you can trust. And there have been times where, you know, it's a pirate ship there. So there's been times, and I say in my act, like, if you ask me twice, I'm in. That's my biggest problem. Like, Brandon, you want to hit at this joint? No, come on. All right. And then I do it. And then next thing you know, I'm on stage and I have this brilliant rant about ghosts or something. And I don't know what it is. And everybody like loses their shit. They go, that was fantastic. And I go, what the fuck was it though? And then I try to repeat it the next night. Like, man, like try to force it. And they could just tell. It's a whole new audience. And they go, nah, man, that was something you did last night. Like,
wow.
It's really hard. You can't do it as well. Some of those beautiful moments really are upsetting.
Do you ever record yourself on your iPhone?
I did like a few times and I threw the phone. I was like, that doesn't work for me.
Fuck.
Yeah, because I hate I hate everything.
Yeah.
So I just go, that's not my thing. I'll just try to remember. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many bits. I did a whole thing about that I could never figure out. There's like, I did this bit about like, I never did impressions, but I did this thing about a guy, you know, teaching an alien how an elevator works. Like, I don't know why I did that.
That's
And it turned into a 15-minute bit about how I realized I don't know how an elevator works. And the alien's asking me questions, you know, like, what is that? No, it's an elevator. What's an elevator? Well, you know, you hit a button, doors open, and then you can go up and down. And how do you go up and down? Well, you know, there's have you ever, you know, like a laundry line, you know, with the cable, like there's like cables, they, you know, with a little wheel. How does it know if there's, and I just kept going and going and going to the point that I snapped at the alien. And that's only something I could do at the Comedy Store, where I just went on a rant.
You were riffing. Oh,
yeah. It wasn't even planned. I don't know why I did
freedoms. Two of those freedoms. Bill Burr just did on. He was talking about a lot of guys are going to this Camp Chappelle thing out in Ohio.
God.
You know, fucking phones in the bags, like. And he was saying on his podcast this idea of like, it's the first time in ages, because you kind of touched on it. You said, "Oh, the Comedy Store is a safe space," but by how he was describing his feeling with comedy, he said, "Oh, it's the first time in ages I felt like I'm just up on stage and it's not my dojo. I came here to work some shit out. Some didn't work, some did. It didn't matter, and like that was cool." So again, it's kind of, you know, it's regarding that question that I'm sure you've been bored to death with comedy. This idea of like, you know, is comedy still the safe space that it used to be? Can you say what you want to say? But like, you know, has comedy, well, obviously comedy has fundamentally changed, but like, how do you as a comedian react to that? Like, as in, I guess the bigger question is like, you know, what do you allow yourself this freedom to say whatever you want to say? Or like now, do you have to self-censor yourself a little bit? Or like, you know, this new world, can you just say whatever you want?
The thing that's upsetting to me with that is I actually heard that on his podcast too. Like Camp, you know, Chappelle is something, if my special did better, maybe I'd be invited to. But I look at that like that's like, you know, Halloween Town or something from like Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm like, man, I wish not Nightmare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember doing Denver Comedy Works is one of my favorite clubs, and the first year I went there, it was great. It was amazing. But then the next year I went there, that whole thing with the phones, Chappelle played that place and hired this company that puts your phone in a sealed bag. And Comedy Works, to their credit, like just worked with them as partners and said, "Oh, this is how we're going to handle every headliner." And so when I went back the next year to headline, I said, "What is that?" They go, "Oh, so people can't have their phones during the show," which is like you're asking for an hour and a half without your phone. And it was night and day. Just even the reaction, the attention, you know, there were less hecklers, less people kicked out because they're not distracted, and you don't have to be taped. So you felt more freedom. And we had some crazy times. Like we add music, me and Jason Collins, to our show sometimes at the end. I always loved Dean Martin and Sinatra. And so on like the late shows, we'll do this thing where, you know, he'll do 30 minutes, I'll do an hour and 10, and then we'll have a piano out there and I'll improvise music with Jason, because Jason sings like John Legend. And, you know, he used to be a producer for Interscope and was like asked to be a backup singer for Babyface. Like he's got a lot of like 80s, 90s roots in his music. And we just go and we riff, and it becomes this really fun thing of us just messing around, and everybody's in. But when they're phones, it's different. And I will say with like what's going on now, what's so interesting to me is that you can attack comedians, and once again, comedians, for what Larry David said once in Curb Your Enthusiasm when he accidentally brought up, I mean, this is way too specific, but like I think Ricky Gervais brought it up in a Larry David meets Ricky Gervais, because I'm just a student of this game. And he was saying, like, you said something that made a lot of sense with me in comedy. There's a scene where there's a kid who has a big penis, and you brought it up to the dad, like, quite a penis on your kid. And it caused a whole thing. And
Love
his
that
wife
episode.
asked, Yeah. And his wife asked Larry, why did you say that, Larry? And Larry said, and this is what comedy is. He goes, I took a risk. And that's what comedy is. Like, the intention of what we're doing is comedic, but for some reason the internet wants to tear us apart and like take it as a soundbite and really rip us apart, where I'm like looking at other shit where I go, that's not even ironic or a joke, but why isn't that person being canceled? Why is this comedian being canceled?
Yeah.
Trust me, I have failed so many times that should, like, they were taped, I guess, in this culture. It's screwed up. So part of me with that, like, especially now it's so sensitive, is I think Bill Burr said it too. Like, he said, because there's only certain comics I think should be the voices, like Chappelle or Bill Burr, for us as a generation, because I'm not that generation. There are upperclassmen, and they should be the people that are speaking for us, you know, because if I start preaching, it's not going to make sense, because I don't have the years and the way to articulate it that way. Like, when I'm their age, I will, but it's not right now. Is part of me is sitting there going, you know, am I going to have to be safe now at the Comedy Store, where, you know, we used to play pimps and drug dealers and like weirdos and hookers in front of 9 people. And like, now all of a sudden, like, I'm offended by the fact that you said gay. Like, what? I said, my brother's gay. Why does that matter? He is a gay man. You know, like things like that. Like, am I going to have to apologize? And Bill said that one thing where he goes, comedians have to stop attacking comedians. Like, we have to stick together. Like, and that's a big thing that's happening on the internet. Is there's a lot of comics.
Comedians have attacked, really?
Well,
I mean, you have to name names, but
they're,
you know.
Yeah, but they're going at comics. Like, they're taking sides of the internet as opposed to taking sides of the fact that we're all comics. And that was a Bill Burr thing where he was like, I would never do that. I wouldn't do that publicly. If I have a problem with a comic, I talk to him, I get his number, and I talk to him. I wouldn't do that because you're really hurting all of us. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. So part of me is wondering that, like, some of my act I look at and I go, man, can I say that again? Or can I do this in my new hour? But then the other part of me, the comedian in me, the rebel in me is going, I'm going to double down on it. I'm going to do it worse. Because the way I look at it is, if the headline is funny, you know, Brent Morin says pandas or pillows or whatever the fuck, you know, I couldn't think of something. But whatever, if I could laugh at the headline, somebody else is going to laugh at the headline.
Yeah. Well, you know what? 100%. You talked about Ricky Gervais, and he said about this whole thing, he said, you know, people have got to stop saying that you can't make jokes about this and that anymore. You absolutely can. You can make a joke about anything. And if people don't like it, they will tell you. And then it's up to you to decide whether you give a fuck or not.
Yeah.
And I think, because if you look at comedy as a craft, which is what I do, because it's an art form, which is what I do as an artist, I can respect that you are carefully articulating that joke. You're building it up a certain way so that when it lands, you understand it's a whole cleverly thought out process. But to other people who don't understand comedy as a craft and respect it as an art, to them, they're just going to go, why did he make a gay joke? Why did he make a joke about... They don't actually understand what you were doing was you were tailor making a joke, because that's your job. You're a comedian.
And that's what's interesting. I just feel like, and it's probably because I am a comedian, but I feel like all I seem to see is just comedians being like attacked for a joke or attacked for a point of view. But it's like, I mean, there's plenty of other people that aren't even joking, that aren't getting attacked the same way comics are. And that's just so weird to me. Like, we're the one profession that is here to make you laugh. And let me tell you something. Go to the Great Depression, any plague, anything that's happened in society. Eventually, it's comedy they want to forget about it. So why would you want to take us down?
Take that away.
That's weird to me.
Dude, I swear, my favorite thing in the world to do is to belly laugh. It's my favorite thing, because that is literally the definition of happiness. In that moment, you can't do anything else. You can't be sad and laugh your ass off. It's so for me, I'm like, don't take that away. We need that now more than ever, right? But going off of that, and I've always been interested in this. Like, a lot of people say, and if you do your research, a lot of comedians have had a dark past, or they've been through some crazy shit. When I'm in a bad mood, or if something has upset me, I switch it on, right? Like, if I have an interview, but if, like you said, if I had a fight with my wife, I know I can't, I just have to switch it on. When the camera comes on, I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm going to be happy, jolly Jay, because I don't want to, you know, but that's me, because I'm an artist. I have to do that. So as a comedian, do you have to feel funny to be funny?
Sometimes, like, I mean, I only rarely do I have moments, and I've had a few where I've actually apologized, where I don't take it out on anybody, but I couldn't get past something that was in my family or something that was depressing. And, you know, the dark past thing too is, you know, my parents are still married, you know, they, like I just sent them on a nice little trip because my dad always says to me, you know, I love being with your mom and I just want to be on the beach with her and laugh like we do every year for a couple days. Like I have that, and I have two brothers that have done well. I mean, there's definitely demons in all of us. I mean, there's some darkness. When you're smart, it's going to happen. I mean, but I never thought that you had to have this completely terrified past to be funny. I think that to be a comedian, you have to be over analytical of every single situation in your life. You overanalyze everything, to a dinner, to, you know, the market with Highlight, you know, to the mailman, your interaction with him. Like, it becomes a thing where it's so obsessively overthinking, which eventually is going to lead to some form of depression. Like, I've always wished I was an idiot. Like, that would be an amazing life, to wake up dumb, you know, because then you can get drunk in a town and just wake up and go, epic night, dude. And you go, yeah, no, I'm overthinking what I had to drink. Why did I do that? What the hell did I eat the M&Ms and the thing? Why did you do that? And like, and you have all these kind of like demons. I definitely, you know, I'm on antidepressants, and obviously I have all these things. I mean, it's part of the funny, but like, that's my escape, is being funny. And a lot of times I've also been depressed, and it's the reason I get out of it as a crowd. And a reason I get out of it, some of my best shows have been when I'm like miserable. My grandmother passed away, and all I said, and she was a big part of my life, I said, I need to get on stage. And I was back in Connecticut. I said, they said, well, there's no real stage here. And I said, and there was an open mic in a basement. And I just went down there, and they let me luckily close it out. And I just did like an hour of just talking about her and talking about life and just going on a rant. And then I remember when I, you know, like was going through a breakup, and I was in Hawaii of all places, and she had got me to get off Zoloft, you know, and that was a big thing, that it was just a difference of opinion on something, but I was doing it for her. But then she left me. I go, that's a great idea. And so now I'm like heavily depressed in Hawaii. I don't think anybody's ever cried in the ocean of Hawaii, but I have. But I went to this local bar to do the show, because I was there for this show, and I did like 2 hours. And it was one of the most cathartic, great experiences. And I think sometimes what happens, music and acting and, you know, comedy, is there are people that want to be famous, and then there are people that just need to do this and give something, but also it's selfishly something we need to do. And I think it's something we're here to do, you know? Like, I realized I made a lot of people happy that night, but I also, they made me really happy. And they made me feel like, oh, I'm good. But it wasn't like, well, I need to kill, or I need this. And, you know, it's just, man, I need to do this as a job. I cannot be in a cubicle. Okay, and I can't do this.
I'm going to take it a level deeper now. Let's say while you were there, sad, depressed in Hawaii, you said, I need to do this. And you went into that room and you bombed. Let's say you bombed, and you needed it so badly, but you bombed and you didn't get those laughs back. Where do you end up now? Where are you now?
Oh, I think I would still be okay, because then I would be calling friends, talking about and making them laugh about how I bombed. Like, I just think it's something internally that comes in. And I think the reason they were laughing is because everybody's had heartbreak, and everybody is human, and it's completely narcissistic to think it's just you. And it's really open when you get up and I go, my girl left and she made me get off antidepressants, so I'm not in a good mood. Right. And then that's how I started. It wasn't my act. I was headlining. They paid me to be there. Amazing. And then I just kind of went, I'm going to sit down for a second. I am not doing well. And then people were just like, that's it. Right on their, you know, elbows on the knees, just going, because at the end of the day, I find that, you know, as much as we think we're individual, we're pretty we have a lot of the same things.
100%.
And I actually think if more people had sense of humors, we wouldn't be in as much shit as we are in America.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like if people had a sense of humor, it would work. If Chappelle was president and we're laughing about shit, people will be a lot happier. Things will be a lot better.
Right. Yeah. 100%, man. I really believe that, you know, and I think for me, when you were talking about that being your therapy, you know, it's very interesting how going back to the Zoom thing you were talking about, that response you got back when you really needed it, you got it back, you made them laugh, but they also internally changed your mood because of the energy that was created in that room. And that energy is probably, you're not going to get that with a Zoom performance.
No, you need to connect. And I really appreciate anybody that comes to a show. And it's really interesting because it's what you were talking about too. When you talk about music and it's just like the nitpicking and all the things that we do, like we get lost in the idea like, oh my God, like the first time that I got offered a headlining gig at an improv, I was like, I can't believe, even though it's like the club minimum, whatever. I remember having to battle myself because I can't believe I'm doing this show. And then a year later, I'm going, what did he get paid? What am I getting paid? You know, like you start, the cynicism comes in and the pessimism, and you kind of have to check yourself. But I also think it's okay to be that way because we're human. But then some 16-year-old kid who snuck in with his mom comes up to you and it's like, got a letter for you going, I want to do comedy because of you. And I'm thinking, man, if I had that luxury to do that, like that kid's braver than me. I would have never done that. I never wrote anybody.
Is there
that's pretty cool.
Is there anything off limits? Like two of my favorite comedians, I'm sure me and Todd and even Jay would have a laundry list, but like I was lucky enough to work on Stephen Brody Stevens' show, Enjoy It. And of course, you know, God bless that man. I love him. I wish he was still here. Me too. And, you know, Patton Oswalt, his special, you know, I'm probably bastardizing that, but obviously in Annihilation, he talks about his wife's death. And, you know, was it comedy plus, tragedy plus time equals comedy. Like how you're talking about this idea of catharsis and you know, giving all that stuff up on stage. Has there ever been a moment where you thought, I shouldn't say that, and I have said it, or equally, I want to say that, but I'm self-censoring? Like, you know, also regard your show Undateables, and also a lot of your comedy, it's very personal, it's very love life orientated. Again, a lot of people can relate to that. Like, how do you know, is there a line, or do you just blast past the line?
I mean, sometimes I have to check myself, like, do I know enough about a topic that I can even cross a certain line? But I'm an emotional person, so, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I've been in plenty of fights I lost because of that, you know, and a lot of times, like once again at the Comedy Store, where I've just kind of let it out. And with Brody Stevens too, Brody was my neighbor, you know, and we were supposed to play catch like at a certain time. He worked on Undateable as, you know, we had him hired as like our warm-up guy and then our Periscope guy, just because he was a Comedy Store guy. Like he was our guy. And we both played baseball. So we were supposed to play catch like 2 weeks prior, but he would walk around with his selfie stick doing his Periscope. And then I would just jump in his Periscope and watch him after, you know, 12:30 a.m. just go on rants. And then
why did you not laugh?
Yeah, like, you know, energy, arms crossed negative, all these things, and then we would drive home to the valley together. He would drive me home. Well, I was drinking, but you know, like we had a great relationship, and I don't know. I think if I believe in it, then it's okay to say. I'm always hesitant on apologizing for a joke, you know, a little bit. I think that there are people that. Open micers especially do this, where it's just they want shock. You can always tell the difference if you're doing comedy a long time, where somebody just wants shock. They want to shock you. So they're going to bring up a 9/11 joke right after 9/11 because they don't know how to get a laugh, and they're going to shock you. But you have no point of reference for that. And that stuff is not acceptable. Or school shootings. Like, you got to have a point. Yeah. And because I don't want to say anything's off limits, because they're brilliant comics like Ricky Gervais or guys that can really pull shit out. Like when I watch Bill Burr do the Comedy Store, it's almost like he purposely buries himself in the first like 3 or 4 minutes. and then he finds a way out of it.
Mm.
And that's like just years of doing it and the years of being beaten doing it. And you kind of try to learn how to do that. Like I tried to take a philosophy of that. And one of my exes would come all the time to the Comedy Store with me. And there was a bit I did on the stand-ups it was about her. And it was about getting in an argument in New York City and letting the wind take me and then eating an ice cream cone. And it bombed so bad when I brought it up. And she was being nice, being like, it's okay. It's all right. And I went, that's going to be a closer. And she goes, well, it was the worst part of your act. I go, no, that will be a closer.
Wow.
I know that will be a closer. I could feel it. I don't know where it is, but it will be a closer. And so what I started doing was purposely bombing.
Interesting.
To see if I could get a laugh off of it. And then I would talk slower or do something differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it was Ian Edwards, of all people, told me this when I was young. He was talking about Chris Rock. I think it was Chris Rock. Yes, I think it was. Where him at the Comedy Cellar, Chris Rock used to do bits on stage. You know, and Chris is very animated. But he would do it on the stool and very slow and and get a chuckle or laugh. And I think it was Ian. I don't want to quote him. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But he goes, he would do that. And then I asked him, why do you do that? He goes, if I can get a laugh without putting any of the performance behind it, then it's worth it. Wow. And so I started bombing on purpose for this joke to see if it would really work and then close with it. And then it would get a chuckle. And to her credit, we get in the car once and she goes, you bombed on purpose tonight, didn't you?
Mm.
And I went, yeah. And then it did become my closer on the thing. And the most notable thing that people talked about was the ice cream bit. Because then eventually I did it in the main room at the store, then it murdered. But
wow.
I don't even know if that's self-torture, but you just try to find where it goes. You get used to bombing is what it is.
I was going to say, I was going to say, it's almost like you hit the lowest point, you can only go up from there.
Yeah.
So if you're starting at ground zero, you're like, well, okay, I've already fucked it. The room is dead.
Yep.
I've
messed it up.
I'm still here. I've messed it up, but hey, I'm still here. So, and then I guess it's kind of like you start to, it's like you don't give a shit anymore. It's like, hey man, I've been in 10 rooms where I didn't get any
I have cried.
Right. It's kind of actually amazing. It's kind of like how in Eminem's 8 Mile, where he just says everything shit about himself. You can't beat him after that. It's like I already said it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I've been sitting in the in a parking garage listening to the Once soundtrack before crying. I have sat in the worst hell. I remember when I was really young and in college and I got my first improv spot, and the Hollywood Improv is going to get me a spot. Jason Collins got me the spot, and he goes, you got to put my buddy up. And it was a sold out show. And I invited these girls that I had met at a club, and all of them came, which never happens.
Oh, cool.
And I go, this is going to work. And I, for some stupid reason, because I didn't know what I was doing, decided to do a joke I've never done, which is dumb. And I'm supposed to do 5 minutes before the host. So it's not even like it's a host and me, but it's sold out. They're ready. I bombed so bad they turned the music up on me in a minute and a half. And I had to walk off stage. Never saw any of those girls again.
Oh.
All of them were gone. It was the most humiliating experience. I had to walk off like, good to see you guys. Bye. Yeah. You know what? A song's playing. They can't even hear me. I'm just like, good to see you. Bye. It's sorry. I am in college. I have highlights. And just bombed. And Jason, of course, being a homie, was completely had my back. Like, don't you light him? He had 5 minutes. And then it's the same place that was like, maybe you should quit. And then next thing you know, I'm headlining it.
Wow.
But you know,
listen, man,
you're beat enough. You know, it's going to happen. There's a lot of work to go.
People should literally use comedians as a case study for fucking thick skin resilience. If you think about, there's so many people in life who just give up when shit doesn't go their way. They just go, fuck it, that's not for me. Comedians get better because of it, literally. get
That's where I
better
think the
because of-
darkness comes from, by the way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just the torture of being beaten down.
Right.
You literally in history are called a jester, where people weren't funny, they get killed. You know, you're not the high entertainment. Your idea is to make people laugh while they eat. That was something. Right. We are the everyman, the everywoman. We are the people that are supposed to make you laugh, which is great, because there's nothing better than a full house and a great time, especially with your friends, and you're having all these laughs and good moments. I mean, the problem and the concern that we have in comedy is just what you guys talked about earlier, is what's off limits now, you know? Because like even Jamie Foxx, I think, defended either Jimmy Fallon or somebody about blackface. And because he's like, you don't have to apologize for a joke you did at a time where it was different, because people are ignoring the fact that it was a different time. You know how many jokes on Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn would be considered, you'd be canceled now? There's no way. But you can't hold them responsible for a time that was different.
Exactly. Things
what about
back then?
What about the people that signed off on that? You know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Tough Crowd is one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube. And I just look at all these people having a good time and just saying things because they're joking. There might be some element of truth in their mindset, but they're not really truthful that way. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's the wrong way to go. I think it's wrong to go backwards.
And I'm a huge Joey Diaz fan, and I don't want that type of person to ever go away.
But Joey isn't, and I'll tell you why. It's the same reason Charles Barkley isn't, because Charles Barkley is one of my favorite. Inside the NBA, I'm a huge basketball fan. Inside the NBA is one of my favorite shows. And Charles Barkley got in trouble for making comments about San Antonio women. And he got in trouble where it was on The View and The Talk and all this stuff. And so this is why Charles Barkley could say whatever he wants, the same way Joey can. It's because he didn't apologize.
Exactly.
He literally looked at the crowd and he says, and if you don't like what I said, kiss my ass. Change the damn channel. I'm making jokes. And it went away. I think when people start apologizing for jokes, it's when this shit gets blown out of proportion. Yeah. Ricky Gervais didn't apologize for the Golden Globes. And that's why people just moved on, and it's fine. And he could do Instagram Live, and that's like his new podcast now.
Yeah.
Like, when you don't give in, it works better. And the problem is too many people are giving in. And it's like, no, we got to defend comics like Jamie did with Jimmy. You got to defend it. Because this is just jokes.
Listen, I'm with you 100%, by the way. I agree with you. But let's say in theory, though, in theory, that's right. But in practice, it might not be that easy. Let's say you got a gig and then now the network feels the pressure to cancel you because, you know, they have the pressure, right? They could. You are still saying, hey, I'm not going to apologize. I was making a fucking joke, but now you're without a job. So sometimes don't you think that people feel the pressure because they're like, well, I don't want to lose my job. I got to pay the bills. I guess I should say sorry.
Yes. And honestly, I spent years I worked for the whole run of The Tonight Show with Conan as a production assistant and 3 years of Conan on TBS. And there was such a difference at The Tonight Show, just with the suits and the amount of things he had to do and how much he was handcuffed. And you're right. Like you have to play ball. And I do think that it's also arrogant if you have that job to go, no, I'm not playing ball. No, these people pay your bills and help your kids get into school, and you have a responsibility. And take it from me. I was on an NBC show, you know. One thing we wouldn't apologize for was our comedy. And then we did a lot of really weird shit. Like me and Rick Glassman would do we were on this Mexican show that was unbelievable, you know, and like Home and Family that we would do. Like we would do bits that made no sense. I mean, but I was like, they understood it was comedy. And then I was on Merry Happy Whatever on Netflix, which is a family show. And now I booked this CBS show that I'm supposed to do with Oliver Hudson and Malin Ackerman. Oh, wow. And there are parts of me where even in the podcast, I go, look, we're still waiting to see if we're going to shoot the show. And I want to be an actor. So like, I'm an actor. So I do want that. And it's CBS. So there are things I might have to bite my tongue on. So I do understand where they're coming from. That's why I like guys like Jamie Foxx that defend people like that. That go, you don't need to apologize. I'm telling you that. Because I think what he's saying is, I know you can't say that. Steve Harvey said that on Comedians in Cars. He got in trouble for a bit with Jerry Seinfeld, and he was saying he made a bit about some girl, and I don't even know what the hell the bit was, but after that, Jerry goes, why would you apologize for that? He goes, because I got shows. I got TV shows. Right. He goes, I got this. He goes, no, if I wasn't on those shows,
right,
come see me tomorrow night.
Right, exactly.
And it's going to be worse. So there is a responsibility.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain sense of responsibility to a network, because I don't really think they believe it. You know, I think they need to protect their assets, which I get.
That's it.
And that's your job.
100%. You know? With your acting, I've always wondered this, right? Like, let's say you're playing a role, you haven't written the script, you're reading the thing, it's not funny. And you're like, fuck, man, that's so crap. Like, really? How do I make that funny? Like, that is the art, I think, which I'm very impressed by. When something clear, I've seen it so many times where really funny people are delivering a really shit line.
Yeah.
Have you come across situations like that?
Oh yeah. And well, there's two scenarios. Like on Undateable, our boss Bill Lawrence really gave the freedom to me and Chris to improvise as much as we needed to. He goes, you guys can make it funnier. And so just go to town.
That's cool.
And then I did Mary Happy Whatever. And this guy, Tucker Crawley, he was more about the word. I was fortunate that his words were really funny, but it was more about a story. And this new show with CBS, it's very much explained to me that I'm allowed to improvise. But
cool.
Honestly, what I learned through that, because it's a different medium, is I did a show called The McCarthys for CBS. And Laurie Metcalf was on it, who played Jackie on Roseanne. And he got nominated for an Oscar. I forgot the name of the movie, but she was nominated. And she's a legend in multicam and just great actress. I watched her take lines that weren't supposed to be funny and make them funny without changing them. Because our instinct as comedians is insecurely to change it. I'm going to change it. You got to add a "the" here. You know what? And do all this. But I remember there was one, we had Rick Fox, the basketball player, on, and her own line was she was supposed to walk into the living room and just say, hey, Rick, can you help me get something off the top shelf? That was it. And then she walked in and she goes, hey, Rick, like a mom does. And it got a huge laugh. She goes, can you help me get something off the top shelf? And I never saw it that way. So then I sat with her and I go, how do you know how to do that? And she really didn't have an answer for that. She was just like, you just got to find the funny in whatever the line is. So then the next week I'm at a table read for my show, and all my line was, okay, am I a part of your role play? And for some reason I'm sitting at this table read in front of the whole network in the studio, and I just went, oh, okay. And just as simple as that, you start learning, maybe this line can be funny. So it becomes less of like, oh, this line's bullshit, which every comic, especially on my first show with me, Ron Funches, Rick Glassman, Chris D'Elia, like you got fucking 4 different styles of comics on the same show.
All killers.
Yeah, who are all killers in different ways. Like we're the most judgmental cast you're ever going to have on comedy. And I just started realizing, oh, maybe it is funny. And like we should just try to make it work before we change all of it. Because there were plenty of times that I changed a lot of it, especially when we were live. Like I would just change shit left and right, and I would do things way differently because he would let me do it, and it worked. But maybe it didn't. But she taught me like, no, you got to look at it a certain way. Like we had David Finn on our show. This guy is a British actor. That's obviously why I brought him up, and. And, you know, he's a star of School of Rock, and he was just a super funny actor. He would just find ways to make it so funny. And I just realized through Laurie and him, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could find a way. Became more of a challenge. Like, okay, how do I make this funny? So then I could take something as simple. And then Bill Lawrence told me a story about Michael J. Fox, because he had done Spin City, which was his first show when he was like 26. He sold. And he said Michael was the king of knowing how to pause. Like he could milk an audience. He could really get somebody like, well, hang on, and then take that long pause. And you don't know what you're talking about. And just even that was funny.
Yeah. It's such an art, isn't it? It really is. I mean,
it's
like
music. It's what it honestly is music. Because when I did it with Dennis Quaid, and with Mary Happy. He had never done Malty, and he's a brilliant actor who just hit like 100 movies on IMDb, and I'm intimidated to work with him. And he's knocking on my door asking, can you help me out with Multicam? And I'm going, can you give me $1 million? But I said, I didn't know what to I go, because he was seeing me in rehearsal take risks, because I would read lines, just be like, well, what do you think, Pops, would be the line? And I go, well, what do you think, Pops? All right. And I would do things like that, and I would get big laughs. So he was wondering, man, you really change it from table read to set, and then you do this. I go, and he goes, you don't seem to really give a shit if you're embarrassed. I go, well, because I'm embarrassed my entire life as a comic. I'd rather swing for the fences. And they go, tone it down, Right. And I just couldn't think of the right terminology to get him to figure it out. But I know he's in bands and he loves music so much because he brings his guitars. And I just said, you treat it like music. Music has a rhythm and a pattern. And that's what Multi is. Like Multicam is a rhythm and a pattern. That's all it is. Like if you're in a normal movie and you say, where is my daughter? That's it. That's all you do. Where's my daughter? But if you're in a Multicam, where is my daughter? Like there's just a difference. So it becomes kind of a lesson.
you went to film school, but you didn't go to acting school, or did you? I never went. So it was just a natural gift that you developed yourself.
My whole goal was to be a writer, director, actor. Stand-up was never in it. Actually, stand-up was the one thing I thought I couldn't do. And music, actually, too. Like, music is like every comedian wants to be a musician. Every musician wants to be a comic. I mean, there's so many similarities. It's like you're creating your own content. You're putting it all out there, where an actor is, getting stuff fed to them.
Exactly.
You have to create your own shit. Like you said, going to Hong Kong, you got to read the room. It's the same type of thing. I think that's why musicians and comedians get along so well, too.
Yeah.
And that's why Chappelle can have all those moments.
Yeah, 100%. I found that as well. I mean, like we've had obviously the pleasure of having you with us today. And thank you, bros, by the way. I've really enjoyed this. I hope you have. I
need this. Honestly, I'd be having this conversation by myself in a mirror. This is how bad it's got. Combing my doll's hair. I've been building dolls. You're going to be the best princess at the carnival, aren't you?
Good for you. But, we've had the pleasure of a few comedians on here. We had Russell Peters as well.
Love Russell.
Yeah, Russell's awesome. But, yeah, I do find myself very drawn to, even though, like, super drawn to comedy. And, all three of us over here, I don't know. It's very therapeutic for us as well. And as a celebrity, I find the nonsense in the fame game. And my way out of it is through humor. When shit,
it's a great deflection.
It's so great. So many rubbish things have happened to me when you're like, there's no way that should happen to a pop star. I'm like, fucking happens a lot. And if I got upset every time or screamed at an assistant every time shit happened, I'd be a jerk. But because I laugh it off and go,
yeah, what can you do? Yeah,
dude, like I find it hilarious when rubbish shit happens to me, and I do, because I find it's just so fucking funny. And like, this is why something like this, I think a platform like this is so nice and refreshing for our audience to hear these stories. But bro, I just want to say thank you, bro. I mean,
let me tell one little thing though.
Yeah, please.
Just piggybacking off what you said.
Go on.
We had one moment. So the last season we did of Undateable was all live, and we did live. What you see is what you get. No take two. And the other 2 seasons, we used to do a take of the script, and then we were allowed to, if they had to rewrite the writers, we could do that and take 2, but take 3 was ours. And so they would be 20-minute scenes that were supposed to be cut down to a minute. So it's just, it was a mayhem place. For the 3rd season, we had bands, we had Meghan Trainor, Charlie Puth, we had Backstreet Boys. We had all these bands that would play, but it was live, but with a bunch of comedians improvising. That one was a waiter, one never had a job, me as a PA, you know what I mean? Like there was nothing going on. And just to test it, they would do rehearsal shows. And we did one rehearsal show. And when I tell you every single scene bombed and how unprepared we were, and it was so bad. And then my character sings in the show a lot, and Bill would just give me songs. I don't know lyrics. So then I'd have to learn like, Katy Perry shit. I have to learn all these lyrics, but then I had to sing Grease. And then David Finn, the British guy on the show, did School of Rock, was trying to teach me how to sing that song. Mm-hmm. It just worked out. It was the perfect show of everything going unbelievably wrong. Like there wasn't one thing, and it ended with me having to sing the high note John Travolta sang in Grease. That whole thing. Yeah. And the amount my voice went, like that. It did. And you just see all of us laughing on the thing. Yeah. It was so bad that Bill Lawrence was so pissed off. He goes, can I talk to you guys over here for a second? Yeah. He goes, we're not doing rehearsals anymore. He goes, the network almost canceled us because of the rehearsals. He goes, we're done. But the fact that all us comics, and you could attest to this with your team and everybody, you know, all you guys, is there's nothing better when shit hits the fan or it's bad to be able to go and die laughing. By yourselves.
Bro. 100.
I don't think we ever had a better time than that bomb. I mean, 300 people in the audience, crickets. They're literally told to laugh. There's signs that say clap and laugh, and they wouldn't. Like they wouldn't. Like I've heard the button go. I was like, this is such a bomb that we just sat back there. And of course, some of the actors were like mortified, but the comics were all dying.
Dude.
Man, we really bombed that.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's nothing better than that. It's nothing better than that. So my point to that is, during this chaos to everybody, this is call it all back. Laugh. Yeah. We got to find some laughter and shit, and just understand when it's shit, we got to find the funny in it. Otherwise, we are going to be stuck like this for a long time.
100%, man. I couldn't say it better. Bro, man, I've loved this. Thank you, man.
Me too. I needed this. Yeah. Now I'm going to be alone with my Muppets and just my thoughts. Oh, boy.
Well, let's try to catch up again soon, man.
I would love it.
Yeah, right? Man. Cool. Yeah. Maybe you can have us on yours. Hey,
I would love that. That'd be great.
Let's have a little banter. It'd be nice to have a banter again.
Oh, it'd be fun. You'll have a good time.
Definitely, dude.
Let's do it.
We have to do what we can to stay sane. And honestly, these podcasts really help me as well. Because there are times where I'm just like, fuck me, man. Like I'm 41 and I'm sitting at home and literally not working, and my friends are working. I feel crazy.
It's, you know? I'm losing it. They don't understand it either because it seems so fun. They don't know the work. So it's just like, well, you could play make believe later. And I go, no, man, it's like, you don't get it. Whatever. You're right.
Right.
You're right. I'm not going to win this argument.
Right. Well, bro, fucking let's stay in touch. Adam, send the thing.
Awesome.
All right, brother.
Thank you, guys. This was great. Bro. I'm glad we got to do it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it.
Oh, man, I'm glad, brother.
Big
thank
fan,
you,
man.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it,
bro.
And shout out Jonathan Sadowski, who we didn't really get a chance to talk about.
Yeah. He's boxing and shit. It's pissing me off.
Exactly.
Boxing and fishing.
I know. He's so fucking fit and looks so much happy. Fishing. It makes me so mad. I'm eating mac and cheese and just going, oh, God, maybe I could be the fat guy.
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh,
brother.
Too much happy positivity. All right. Good to see you guys. This is the team right here. We should rob a bank together.
100%.